Well, we want to give you all an update on the Ukraine situation. So a state of emergency has been declared in Ukraine that will last 30 days. The country has also urged the 3 million Ukrainians living in Russia to leave the country. As Russian tanks patrolled Ukraine's eastern border, President Zelensky called up his military reserves but said there is no need for full mobilization.
Meanwhile, President Biden directed more troops to Eastern Europe in response to the developments, though it's unclear how many. Here's Biden in an address to the nation last night.
We have no intention of fighting Russia. We want to send an unmistakable message, though, that the United States, together with our allies, will defend every inch of NATO territory and abide by the commitments we made to NATO.
White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki confirmed that a meeting is off the table between Biden and Putin as of yesterday.
Well, why? They should meet. Let's resolve this.
And Blinken backed out of a meeting with the Russian foreign minister as well, saying we're not going to reward the Russians with diplomacy when they're just going to war.
Then we'll have war.
Well, I would say diplomacy, yeah. Up until, I guess what does it hurt? And also, I was going to say I'm no expert, but clearly the experts aren't either, because they keep getting us into wars.
What's that famous Churchill quote? Your options were cowardice or war. You chose cowardice. You might still get war.
Might still get war. Yes. So we'll talk about this. We'll talk about this later. One thing that I found interesting here is that the previous bipartisan consensus that when there's any international crisis, both parties rally behind the president is completely gone.
Yeah, I remember that.
And you can complain about it. You could whine about how, like, the House Republicans did just this absolutely hilarious post yesterday where they showed a picture of Biden walking away from the podium and said, "This is what weakness looks like." Because he didn't float away from the podium. It's like a picture. But never in the past would an opposition party just be openly ridiculing their own party. Their own country.
Right.
But I think there's actually an upside to this, which means
harder to wage war.
And
yes,
so
shatter that pro-war consensus.
Right. You know what?
Smash it.
Goodbye and good riddance.
Yeah.
To the pro-war consensus. The president wants to engage in anything overseas that is going to put lives on the line. Then fine. Let the slings and arrows from the U.S.
The president does anything. The president decides, we should reseed the White House green. He's going to have arrows.
That's true.
Shot at him. No decision cannot be politicized.
Yes, this is very
What
true.
he has for breakfast is political.
Yeah, we'll see where
It gets annoying when it's that kind of thing. But for war, yes, because Bush had far too much leeway to do whatever he wanted in the wake of 9/11, and disaster ensued.
Yeah, look where it got us.
So some GOP lawmakers have blasted Biden as being weak over his stance on Ukraine. This comes as President Trump weighed in during a sit-down interview with rising alum Buck Sexton, original host of the show. Let's watch.
Mr. President, in the last 24 hours, we know Russia has said that they are recognizing 2 breakaway regions of Ukraine. And now this White House is stating that this is an invasion. That's a strong word. What went wrong here? What has the current occupant of the Oval Office done that he could have done differently?
Well, what went wrong was a rigged election. And what went wrong is a candidate that shouldn't be there and a man that has no concept of what he's doing. I went in yesterday and there was a television screen and I said, this is genius. Putin declares a big portion of Ukraine. Putin declares it as independent. Oh, that's wonderful. So Putin is now saying it's independent, a large section of Ukraine. I said, how smart is that? And he's going to go in and be a peacekeeper. That's the strongest peace force. We could use that on our southern border. That's the strongest peace force I've ever seen. There were more army tanks than I've ever seen. They're going to keep peace all right.
I missed the point where Trump explained what he would have done differently. Was that in there somewhere? Or in between the just praising of Vladimir Putin?
I think the subtext is that he's such a madman that Nixon's madman strategy of convincing people that you're crazy by actually being crazy would have deterred him. And who knows?
Nixon, but the madman thing kind of worked because Nixon was just pretending to be crazy, right? And actually had a very real politic sort of, I want them to think I might press that button, even though I never would. But Trump is just crazy. He doesn't have the. And look,
which might actually be a deterrent.
Biden is,
but that's not a sustainable foreign policy.
Biden, I don't know that Biden has any idea what he's doing. He is too old to be president, is the nicest way of putting it. You know, he deserves all the criticism he gets. I think a lot of the times from everyone, from people on the right, from people on the left, etc. But, you know, the same people who are criticizing, and by the same I mean like Trump people, MAGA people I'm seeing, criticizing, you know, Biden as just clueless old dolt, which fine, fair enough. But then when Trump does something like this, they're just laughing. It's just funny. Yeah. But this is the guy you want to be president, who is as much of a buffoon. Like, we should not be governed by any of either of these people. Obviously, are too old and out of time, and like they don't speak in complete sentences. Yeah. They should not run our country.
Nobody has any answers. And we'll be back with more Rising coming right up.